hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 348.
What parties?
Hey, you lot. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope you've had a cracking week and that you've all managed to do something Doctor Who related. Indeedy. Welcome back to another week, another episode. Thank you for joining us. If you've just discovered the podcast, then welcome aboard. It's good to have you here. If you're a long-time listener, one of the old grizzled ancients, then welcome back. It's all good. A bit of a slow week, really, dude. Nothing happened, did it?
Not a lot.
Nothing at all.
Not much.
What's going on? We certainly haven't got any news to cover anyway. Still really quiet, dude. I did hear one rumour in the media. I think it was a link to some website like The Guardian or something like that, where somebody said that we should be having an announcement imminently for the next Doctor in the coming weeks, apparently.
Oh, right, okay.
So better late than never, I guess. Because at the end of our review episode, Legends of the Sea Devils, in the old Next Time trailer, we had a certain Doctor who was cracking on with a regen, so they want to get their foot down.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Right.
So, yeah,
it's all kicking in now, it's all happening.
It is, it's all gone really quiet. It's like the calm before the storm with the whole casting announcement at the minute, because we had the big swirl of ridiculousness, didn't we? For a couple of months where a bunch of different names were thrown in the hat, as it always happens. But yeah, it's quieting down now. It's like nothing happening at all until Russell gives us the green light. Yeah, feels good to say that. The whole thing
just feels like, I'm just thinking we haven't got, so we get that trailer, which has caused quite a buzz. And then I'm thinking, yeah, but it's so weird. We've got a trailer for something that isn't going to be out till, I think it's November, it's rumoured, the centenary special. It's just it's just so dragged out. I mean, yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about the trailer now or in the ep, because I mean, obviously, that's what most people were talking about.
Let's talk about it in the ep. Yeah,
let's talk about the ep. But yeah, it does feel like you get that, and there's a big buzz of excitement because of a couple, things that are in it, and then it's like, yeah, but we've got months and months to wait now. It just feels, this whole era just feels so dragged out. It's hard to. It's like the momentum builds, and then the foot's off the gas, and you just. Climbing up the hill for another few months, and then, yeah, but...
I know what you mean, dude. Yeah, it's a bit like... we had this with the trailer for this episode, didn't we? The Sea Devils. Months and months ago, and it was awesome because, yeah, everyone's really excited because a classic monster's coming back, and it's going to be amazing. And then we had months and months to wait, and then it's here, and now there's a trailer, but that's months and months away. So it does feel weird. I wonder what it was like with the David Tennant, that year where they did the specials at the end of Series 4. I wonder if people felt the same with that, whether it was like oh God, this year just feels really dragged out, or whether it was, because I honestly can't put myself in the shoes of Who fans at that point, because I don't think I was watching Doctor Who at that point. So
no, I don't remember it being this bad. I mean, I was there at the time. I'm sure I would have been feeling like, come on, we need the, I'm sure there would have been some sort of frustration that, we've got a couple of months now to the next one or whatever. But I don't remember it feeling like this, where it just feels like the breadcrumbs are just thrown out every sort of 6 to 9 months, you know. Yeah, I don't remember it feeling this bad. It might have done. Can't remember.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right, though. It does feel like it's dragging on a bit now. So, yeah. Have you done anything Who related, dude?
Nothing at all, I'm afraid. No, with Easter, and just been doing family stuff and eating loads of chocolate, of course. And yeah, I'm afraid there hasn't been a lot of time for Who, I'm afraid.
Yeah, same, dude. Yeah, just eating a wee bit of chocolate. Excuse me, I was in Wales with the family at the weekend. So
did you
out and about.
Did you get back? Because I saw you were in Caerphilly. Did you get back in time to watch the ep live, or did you watch it on the iPlayer?
Yeah, so we came back, I think we got back Sunday lunchtime-ish, so yeah, I was home then, so I watched it live. Yep.
Oh, cool, okay, because I was at a family get-together, and I'll be honest with you, I wasn't too bothered whether I got back to watch it live. I thought it'd be nice if we do, but not too bothered. I'll catch it when we get in. And it just timed perfectly. Like everyone started to leave around 6:30, and we got back at literally like 7:00. And I was like, "Oh, I've got 10 minutes to make a cuppa," and sat down. And it was just the perfect timing. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So I literally sort of slumped in the sofa with my cup of tea as the announcer was saying, "And now on BBC One." And I was like, "Oh wow!" It was just perfect timing, so it was meant to be. So it was. Yeah, I was quite glad in a way I got to see it live, because obviously, you know, the spoiler stuff from the trailer and that was on Twitter within seconds. So I'm kind of glad I saw it live.
Oh, cool.
And the reaction to it was interesting, of course.
Of course, yeah. Very, very insightful. I think it's the best word for the reaction afterwards. Yeah, no, I read you. Yeah, so watch it live, same as you, bud. And I know that you've rewatched it, right? But I haven't.
I rewatched it yesterday. I just thought I'd give it another watch. It was still kind of fresh in my mind, but I was having my lunch and I thought I'll just bang it on and just you know, have a refresh of it, because there was a lot to digest, really, in terms of my thoughts on it. And yeah, so I thought I'd give it another watch.
Okay,
yesterday.
Cool. Coolio. Okay, so we're a bit light on the old Doctor Who stuff during the week, and there's no news, so we might as well crack straight on with our review, bud. But before we do that, please make sure that you're following or subscribing to this podcast in your preferred podcast app of choice. That way you won't miss a show when it lands every single Friday. So we're on all of the podcast apps. You do a search for us, or you can head over to the website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all the eps for free over there, and you can read the reviews and articles from our writing team. We're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. There are links on the website, and we have a free Discord server. So join up, sign up, hop in there and chat plenty of Who with other Who fans, which is good. And also, don't forget to check out Adam's channel over on YouTube. It is, of course, The Geek's Handbag.
I'd almost forgot. I genuinely was like, what's he on about? Oh, yes, my channel, yeah. Go and check out my channel, my YouTube channel. Yeah, on all the socials as well. Loads of Doctor Who stuff. Yeah. I only do Doctor Who now. If I do a video on anything else, no one watches it. So I just do Doctor Who now.
I love that. Yeah, just loads of Who stuff.
Yep, yeah, I did a Star Wars video once, and it got about 10 views. So I was like, oh, I won't bother.
So, yeah. That was a really good sell there from Adam for his channel. So make sure you go and do that.
Watch the Star Wars video.
Yeah, go and get his ad clicks up a little bit. Go on, go and do it.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good, yeah.
Yes. And he's on the social too, under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. So go and have a chat with him over there. So, dude, review time. We have no idea what it's going to be. So, what is it?
Yeah, shock horror. So, this week, Doctor Who, Legend of the Sea Devils.
Sea Devil.
Coming straight for us.
That's impossible. Madam Ching! Pirate Queen!
Where's the crew? That'll be us. We don't stand a chance.
Yes! Did you just stand up like this? You're like a kid sometimes. Thanks! Say hello to my crew. The world has been disrupted.
Because of you. Because of what you unleashed.
You want to create chaos.
It is our time.
Man the cannons. The ship is going down! Down!
Legend of the Sea Devils, then, was broadcast, as we know, on the 17th of April, very recently. Runtime of just shy of 50 minutes, and was directed by Hao Lu Wang and written by Ella Road, who's a new writer, I understand, for Doctor Who, along with Chris Chibnall. Stars Mandip Gill, John Bishop, and Jodie Whittaker, of course, and then about a dozen supporting cast members, about half of that, the dudes in the Sea Devil costumes. And the synopsis is, when the legendary pirate queen Zheng Yi Sao, alias Madame Ching, awakens an antediluvian sea devil extremist, the Doctor's TARDIS is pulled off course, and Team TARDIS must try to work together with the historical rogue to save the entire Earth from global flood. But amidst the high stakes, high sea adventure, it soon becomes clear the stakes for everyone involved, even the 13th Doctor and Yaz, are much more personal than a legendary sunken treasure, or even the all-important Keystone. ellipsis.
That blimmin' keystone.
The keystone, eh? All right, dude. Legend of the Sea Devils. Then, what you got? What do you reckon?
Yeah. Should we just skip the review and talk about the next time trailer
Oh,
like
mate.
everyone else?
Oh,
Go on, let's not bother. No, I think if I was to sum it up, I'd say disappointing because it was. I thought it was in some respects. So on the first watch, when I watched it when I got in on Sunday, I thought it was enjoyable enough as a bit of fluff. I just got to the end of it and I was like, it felt filler to me, to be honest. But what really struck me was how bad the editing was in it. I mean, it was almost incoherent. And also, although it was a really sort of simple story, really, because so much seemed to be missing, it was like scenes were missing from it. It didn't really, it was hard to understand, and it shouldn't be, because when you read that synopsis, it's a pretty simple story, really, at the end of the day, isn't it? Sea devils want to claim the Earth back, which we've seen before. And, so it was a fairly simple story, just unnecessarily complicated by the fact that the narrative seemed to get lost in the dreadful editing and direction. And watching it again yesterday, so I didn't hate it when I watched it. I thought, well, it wasn't very good, but it wasn't, it was watchable. I thought, it's very middle of the road, felt filler. You can tell this is the episode that Chibnall was asked to write at the last minute, because we weren't sure, were we? We weren't sure if it was this or the Centenary, but this is the one that he got asked to write very quickly, which is why he brought in whatever her name is. Who's the writer? This new writer that we've never heard of.
Oh, was it Ella Road?
Ella Road. So he brings her in. They cobble this together. We know it's made under COVID conditions. I've read this interview with Chibbers just recently where he talked about the difficult conditions they had to make this. So you throw him a little bit of slack, but it really showed. I mean, there was the scene that really stands out to me is that when the Sea Devils massacring people, the sword fight sort of in the middle when people are getting killed, and there's no you get a shot of the Sea Devil swiping a sword, then you get almost unintentionally comedic sort of death, but they're clearly not in the same room. It just looks so bad. So yeah, watching this again yesterday, what really sort of stood out to me really was the poor production in terms of the editing and direction. The acting is woeful pretty much from everybody in it. And to be fair to the actors though, the dialogue is atrocious. I mean, it is. There is so much expedition in this. It's unbelievable. But they are basically because I noticed this more on a second watch that most of the time the cast are standing there telling you what's happening. They're explaining the story, which would be fine if you had. It's as if there were scenes that were shot that were either cut, because it does seem a strange runtime for a special, 47 minutes. Now, I don't know why they would cut these scenes, because they would certainly help. Or the director didn't know what they were doing, or somebody didn't know what they were doing, and they weren't filmed. So these little sort of linking scenes that you need to make a scene work are not there, So the narrative of this episode is just really disjointed. So, yeah, in terms of production and as a story, really, it's pretty poor, I have to say. But if I was just to sit back and put it on and watch it, I think it's all right. But a Doctor Who special shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be watchable fluff. It should be so much better than that. And I can't forgive some of the production errors in this, especially spelling Malcolm Hulke's name wrong in the credits. The creator of the blimmin' Sea Devils, and you spell his name wrong in the credits. I mean, for goodness, what happened on this episode, man? I know it was rushed. We can give them a little bit of slack because of COVID, but come on. It's a bit of a shambles, really. A sea shanty shambles. That's what that's how I'm gonna sum it up. Nice. I thought it was a sea shanty shambles. But it could have been fun. I think that's what I find frustrating, is I think there's stuff in it which I think is promising. I like the statue of the Sea Devil at the start, when I thought, that looks pretty cool, and the Sea Devils themselves had potential, but I've got a lot to say on it, so let's go over to you. We'll talk through it. There's a lot that is just frustrating, because I feel like, that could have been good, but it wasn't. That's my whole feeling throughout the whole episode, really. So a sea shanty shambles for me. What about you?
Yeah, I don't think I can even go that far with it, mate.
No, I didn't think you.
No. Oh dear. Doctor Who listener, Big Blue Box listener, I'm very sorry. This is not going to be a good one.
This could be a bit ranty, listener.
Yeah, I'm really sorry because... Actually, no, I'm not sorry, but I'm sorry for the obvious negativity that's going to come out of the review, I guess. But I know we've got a lot of Jodie fans that listen to the show, and as looking at Twitter and Facebook after the episode went out, there was a lot of people that did like it. You know, and if you're one of those people, if you liked it, then fair play. Absolutely. If you enjoyed it, then nobody can take that away. It's all good. But... I'll be honest, 100% honest. I texted Adam after the episode went out.
He broke the cardinal rule, listener. We never normally discuss episodes before we record a review.
That's true. We always wait until we record. Yeah, I text him.
He texts me straight after.
And the reason for that is because I don't even want to review it.
No.
I said to Adam, I was like, because there was a phase that we went through. I think it was series 12. Series 12, I think it was, or maybe 13, where Adam texted me a few times and said, look, mate, I'm really considering just ducking out of the podcast for a few weeks because I just can't go on every week to be, you know, that negative about it all and just slamming it the whole time. And that's the feeling that I had on Sunday. I was like, I was like, is it worth going on the show and just... But then again, you know, you put your big boy pants on, you get on with it. So...
It's more for the listener's sake, isn't it? You just feel like you don't want to just rant and rave. But the thing is, though, what you have to remind yourself is there will be people that will be nodding and agreeing. And there'll be some that will be saying, oh, you miserable old so-and-sos. But I feel like, and especially the reaction on, you know, online to this episode, I feel like there might be quite a few people agreeing with you. It's even people who are hardcore Jodie fans I've seen have not been impressed at all with this episode. So get it all off your chest, mate. Come on, let it all out.
Yeah, so I think it's more a case of trying to find out what is good about it more than just everything that's bad. I mean, you kind of summarised it quite nicely. I think sort of the top line things for me were the umbrella statement, I guess, is that it's a hugely wasted opportunity for the Sea Devils as a story. That's probably the most frustrating thing. It's, you know... like, if you're going to bring back a classic monster that's loved by, you know, especially classic Who fans, but, you know, probably a large portion of modern Who fans as well that have gone back and watched the classic stuff. You've got such a great monster that's got a lot of potential. And the writing just distills it down to, I want to take over the world. It's like the most basic of basic Bond villain storylines that you could ever concoct. Like, how much time did you think, you know, Ella Road and Chris Chibnall, how much time did you put into writing the story for this, for the Sea Devils? You had endless opportunities to make this such a great story with them and really give the Doctor a lot of trouble. And really, but that's all they come up with. The Sea Devils just want to take over the planet. It's like the most basic thing. Like you have a classroom full of primary kids and you say to them, right, I want you to all write a baddie story. Make up a monster and then write up a plan for them. I guarantee 95% of all the kids in the class would be like, this is a monster called so-and-so and he wants to take over the planet and do this and do that. So that for me is just the biggest thing, mate. It's such a waste. And then on top of that, you've got all the things that you said. So the editing is just... We've got a really good friend called Reese, who does a YouTube channel called...
Gallifrey 97.
Gallifrey 97. So Reese, if you're listening, dude, if this is the quality that a professional company and professional editors are doing, how you're not working in the industry, dude, I have no idea. Because some of your fan trailers and some of the stuff that you've edited is 1,000 times better than this.
Yeah, amazing stuff.
If anyone from the BBC or Bad Wolf is listening, which I know you do every week, then go to the YouTube channel, Gallifrey Forever 97, is it? I think.
Yes, I think that's right. Yeah.
Yep. Lovely young chap, Reese, really talented editor. Go and hire him because it will be an improvement if this is the standard. So the editing was just shocking. The visual effects went from amazing to it's amateur hour at the BBC.
Yeah.
The the dialogue, like you said, between some of the characters was
shocking.
Like, again, primary school kids play kind of level, and the character progression was oh dude, I can't even say it, mate. I can't.
Gary is really struggling with this.
So the two biggest sort of humdingers, I guess, for me was Madame Ching, right? Who raids the village at the beginning. So, and she kills Ying Wai, who's the guy that's kind of been passed down the responsibility of keeping the the gem that's around his neck, which is essentially the keystone, right? He's been charged with keeping that safe, and the sea devil, what was his name, Narcissus, they trapped it in the statue, and Madame Ching turns up, she hacks it down, frees the sea devil, all the rest of it. In the process, she kills Wing Yai, and so for the rest of the episode, his son Ying Kai, who has literally just witnessed his dad be brutally murdered in front of his eyes, then spends the rest of the episode laughing and smiling at the woman that's just murdered his father, and at the end gives her a massive hug and says, yeah, cool, I want to be part of the crew.
I'm so glad you've picked up on that, because I thought the exact same thing. And yet, out of all the things that have been discussed about this episode online, and there is a lot, no one's mentioned that. And I thought that, to me, struck me as so odd when he gave her the hug at the end. Because when I rewatched it yesterday, I thought to myself, I must have got that wrong. Like, maybe she didn't kill him, because that just doesn't make any sense. He gives this big hug at the end. He's sort of giving her puppy dog eyes. He's obviously got a bit of a thing for her. So I watched it again yesterday, and I suppose, and this is no excuse for it, because it's still such a ridiculous bit of writing, but I don't think she actually kills his dad. I think she's responsible for it, if that makes sense. I'm not sure. Again, the editing and the sort of narrative is so confusing.
So
I'm not sure.
Thing, though,
I
right?
thought she killed... Yeah. I mean, I thought it was her that sort of put the sword across, killed him. But I think it's the sea devil that does it. But it's still her fault.
Exactly.
She set the thing free. And so, and she even says in the episode at some point, I'm responsible for your father's death. So whatever way you look at it, for him to be, like you said, laughing and joking and, oh, you, and giving her that big hug at the end, it is just ludicrous. Like, oh, you killed my dad. Ha, ha, ha. The one that I looked up to, the one that I'm, what's he keep getting called all the way through? I'm now the
basically he's custodian of the
custodian
thing,
of this thing that's around his neck, where did that come from? Again, where was the scene? Just suddenly out of nowhere, he's wearing the keystone, which I assume the keystone was the thing that she broke out of the statue at the start. So what was that thing?
Oh no, that was just the that was, I think, just the thing that released the sea devil from the statue.
But why does she want to do that?
Because I think that's part of the treasure that she's after. So it was this ancient treasure, the Fleur de la Mar treasure. So that was part of the treasure that would lead her to the rest of the treasure. That's what she was after. I don't think she was bothered about setting free the sea devil or anything like that. She just wants that bit of treasure that was in the statue, I think.
I get it. So he's wearing the keystone, but that comes out of nowhere. There's no setup for that. There's no moment of like him trying to conceal it. Just suddenly the sea devil lands behind him and it starts glowing, and even he looks surprised, like, oh yeah, I'm wearing the keystone. I mean, there's no setup for that whatsoever, is it? This is what I mean about, it seems like either stuff was cut or it wasn't filmed in the first place and they've had to really cobble this story together. So there are so many moments like that. I mean, me and my other half watching this on Sunday were constantly turning to each other and going, well, how did they get there? I mean, there's a bit where the TARDIS is grabbed by the sea monster. And then the next scene, they come out of it and they're inside the Sea Devil's ship. So I was like, so are they inside the monster now? Is the ship inside the monster, or has the monster dropped the TARDIS off? So that confused me. Then there's the bit where Jodie flips the switch in the Sea Devil ship and it rises up, and 2 seconds before they were sort of the prisoner of the Sea Devil. Then suddenly they swing on these 2 ropes on board the other ship. And I'm like, so hang on. What happened there? How did they escape? Like, there seems to be massive chunks of narrative scene missing. You know, we just jump. It's like it's just so chopped together that I found it so hard to follow, really. And that's just 2 examples. There are multiple scenes where there seems to be explanation scenes missing. There are bits where people's lips move and dialogue is spoken by a different character. There are scenes when the Doctor is on the floor grappling for a sword. She gets up, but the character talking to her is still looking at her as if she's on the floor. There's so many strange edits in this that
the rush job.
I just can't. I would just love to know what went wrong in terms of the production, because the editing and direction, I'm going to say, is shockingly bad. It's probably one of the worst produced episodes we've had. If you really watch it, it's just shocking.
Yeah,
but I would love to. There must be a reason, and I'm sure it's time constraint or something. It can't be.
Well, I think it's down to. I'm sure it's down to a bit of a rush, right?
It's
because of the pandemic. Because there was a couple of people that were involved in the production of it that tweeted out afterwards as well, that said something along the lines of, "I just want to say a big thank you to the rest of the crew and the team who have put this together with limited time and resources throughout the pandemic." So that's not. I'm not entirely sure that's the cause of it, but it also just feels like it just feels like nobody is. Because surely this would have been screened for Chibbers and some other people at the BBC and stuff. Of course, you know, they've put the edit together. They think, right, Chris, this is the final edit. What do you think? Surely he would have watched it and gone, like everyone else in the world that's watched it, and said, well, that clearly doesn't work. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. So I imagine they would have said, well, we're out of time. You know, we are literally out of time. We cannot make any more edits. The episode's got to go out on Easter Sunday. It's already been announced, sort of thing. So I imagine that's the case. It's like, well, it's 90% there. We're just going to have to put it out at 90%, which is a real shame. And also, remember we said last week or the week before when we announced the runtime of 50 minutes, which ended up being more like 47 minutes. We jokingly said, I'm sure it'll be all right. We don't need that 10 minutes anyway. But not only did we need that 10 minutes, dude, I haven't said this very often about Jodie's era, but this should have been a 2-parter. This absolutely should have been a much more fleshed out, with a really good cliffhanger 2-parter, mate. I just, like, how can you do all of these things? This is like Rise of the Rise of Skywalker all over again. It's where you try to narratively do too much in a short space of time, and you end up just speed running through the story. And when you get to the end of it, you're like, well, I haven't got any emotional attachment to anyone. Which brings me back to the humdingers. So we had that first one with the young lad, Ying Ki, who's just seen his dad be murdered. Not necessarily at the hands of Madam Ching, but, she's responsible. Yeah. And then he spends the rest of the episode just gurning and grinning and smiling at her. And then the other one was the Doctor and the Yaz thing. It's like, I completely understand, right, that you want to progress the love interest side of things with the story because it's been building up for the last series, right? So you want to get to that point where, is the Doctor going to just acknowledge that, yes, she definitely, because we know she does anyway, but is she going to tell Yaz that she has feelings for her? And after all this time, after every scene that we've seen over the last series where Yaz has been like, oh, I don't know if she likes me, I don't know if this is a good idea, and all this stuff, the Doctor finally tells her, like, yep, we had the little joke, I'd be a great date and all that stuff, and then at the end she's like, essentially, I like you, but nothing's ever going to happen because when I attach myself to people, they get hurt and it's bad for me and all the rest of it. And what does Yaz do after all of the build-up? She just says, yeah, all right.
Yeah, that's Yaz though, isn't it?
That's it. It's like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure she's upset inside, but for that 3.5 seconds on screen that we've had months and months of build-ups, Yaz is just like, yeah, all right, cool. Right then. And dude, don't even get me started on Dan in this one. John Bishop, mate. John Bishop, this is the easiest money you've ever made in your life, mate.
Just before you get onto Dan, just before hold fire. Just before you get onto Dan, I just have to quickly go back to the Jodie and Yaz thing as well, because I completely agree with what you're saying. But the bit that really, I don't, I don't like a love interest with the Doctor companion. Never have. The Dr. Rose thing got on my wick. The Martha Doctor thing that everyone hates, I kind of get on board with because it's unrequited, and I like the speech she makes at the end about not wasting her time. But I'm just not up for this modern day thing that they keep doing, where the Doctor has to fall in love with the companion. As it just doesn't. It rattles my cage. But the thing that really got me, so I'm not against the Dr. Yaz thing, but it's not something I'm really invested in like some people. But what really did get me, and it almost just made me burst out laughing because I just couldn't believe the writing, was when the Doctor turned to Yaz. Because I thought the speech was going all right. She's like, if something about if it's going to be anyone, it'd be you or whatever. And then she said, you're the most, what was it? The most amazing person I've ever met or something. What was the line? She's basically saying like, Yaz is the best person she's ever, you're the most remarkable, amazing person I've ever met. And I'm like, Yaz, out of all the people the Doctor's travelled with, Yaz is the most amazing person, the one person that the Doctor could possibly settle down with and stop travelling and live a normal life. Are you kidding me? She doesn't even compare to like Sarah Jane or Jo Grant or Ace or, Rose, Martha. She's not even up in the same league. It's just, I can't help but love it because it's just sort of forcing a narrative, because I don't feel any chemistry whatsoever between the Doctor and Yaz. I really don't. As I said, I'm not against, if they want to go down that route, okay, go for it. But I don't feel any chemistry between them. And the thing is, when you see Mandip and Jodie in real life, they clearly get on great. And they're like best buds, aren't they? You saw them at LFCC, they're all over each other, laughing and joking, and there is chemistry there, but not on screen at all. So I can't buy into this. And when the Doctor said that line, I let out the biggest groan. I was like, are you kidding me? That's it. It rattled me. Anyway, go on. Let's get to Dan, because I've been liking Dan, but I've got to say,
well, the thing is, I still like Dan.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I still like Dan. He's a great character, and John Bishop plays him really well. But unfortunately for John Bishop in this one, he gets relegated to who's the companion we had before with Graham?
What?
Tosin Cole's character, Ryan. Yeah,
Ryan.
He's been relegated to Ryan status, where he's just kind of in the background for some of it. The only scene where he gets to actually put something of worth to the story is just almost a carbon copy of the conversation we had with Yaz in the last episode. It's almost the same. It's like he's giving her that look with the raised eyebrow and the little grin, so
in the middle of all this, trying to save the world, they have this stop and have this little chat.
Yeah, and it's almost the same. It's the same feel to the scene. It's the same vibe. It's almost the same dialogue and stuff like that. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier about the writing for the plan for the Sea Devils. Is that the best that you've got to give? So the penultimate story of Jodie leaving the show, and we don't know if Yaz or Dan are going to carry over into the new era with Russell's era. We have no idea if they're going to leave as well. So this potentially could be their penultimate story. And the best that you've got to offer is just a rinse and repeat of the previous story.
Yeah.
Come on, man. That cannot be it. So how did they just land? How did they just settle for that'll do? In this Doctor Who is meant to be the crowning jewel of science fiction for the BBC. And this is the best that you can give us. It's just a rinse and repeat job. I mean, come on, mate.
I must admit, I do like Dan as a character, and I like John Bishop. I think he's a great guy. But this is not a good story for him. I mean, he wanders off with that guy. Then they swim all the way to that. Supposedly swim all the way to that boat, which is ludicrous in itself. The Doctor just abandons him. Oh, don't worry about it. We'll come back. Dan's fine. Yeah, don't worry about Dan. But the thing I really didn't like, and if you want an example of unbelievably bad writing in this, it is the bit where he massacred the Sea Devils in one fell swoop. I didn't like that at all. I didn't like the fact that they turned Dan into a killer that straight afterwards makes a joke, and this is the example of bad writing, by the way. I'm not even talking about the killing the Sea Devils. I'm talking about the line he says afterwards. So he massacres these Sea Devils, and I was like, no, Dan, no, you don't do that. They did. I don't think they even had a sword. He can't even put it down to defending himself, really. And then the guy says to him, where did you learn to do that? And he says something like, oh, you should have seen my mother or something. What? Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. It's not even funny. It's just a terrible throwaway line that makes no sense and completely doesn't undo the fact he's just massacred in cold blood a load of Sea Devils. I really didn't like that scene, especially as literally 2 seconds before you just had the Doctor telling off the other guy for killing the lead Sea Devil. She just said to him, you didn't have to do that. So you get that moral stance by the Doctor saying, you didn't need to kill him, there's other ways of doing things. And then literally in the next scene, you get Dan slaying 6 Sea Devils in 2 seconds flat. Yeah. And I just thought, what is going on here? But yeah, that line, mate, you should see, you haven't met my mother or something. Doesn't make any sense.
Well, it doesn't make sense.
He could have said, I'm a plasterer, I'm really good at doing stuff like this. Or he could have said anything, but what would have been terrible writing.
Yeah, what would have been a great line is, you should have seen me with a frying pan or a wok.
Yes, anything like that. Yeah,
that would have been cool. But because the thing is, based on the ratings, right? Not that many people watch this anyway. But if you hadn't seen the previous episodes where we met Dan's parents and you got a flavour for the sort of people that they are, that line makes no sense to anyone if you've never seen that episode.
I don't think it makes any sense anyway. What has his mother got to do with the fact he's just kind of wipe out 6?
He's just trying to put across the fact that his mum was a bit of a hard ass, and he's learnt to be like this from his mum. So he's But the thing is, like, if you'd have, it's just a bit of a useless line, like you're saying, because if you'd have seen the previous episode, which was really good, that episode where we saw Dan's parents and we got an insight into what they were like and stuff, and a bit of a connection, then you can kind of join the dots a little bit. But for newcomers, people that have not seen the series, it's like, okay.
I just don't think it's a good line anyway. Because what they're trying to do is just sort of make light of the fact he's just murdered those Sea Devils, really. Then, like you said, there are so many things, better lines you could have put. Even that one you just said about the wok is better than that. You know, you should see me with a wok. You know, it would be so much funnier. What do you think has happened with the production of this, though? I mean, we've talked about the time and the editing, but do you think that because there has been rumours about 2 weeks ago before this episode aired, there started to be this rumour that they'd had to cut stuff because it had been deemed offensive to China, which I totally dismissed. I thought, I doubt it. Like, knowing how PC Chibnall is, I thought, I can't imagine he's written anything that would offend anyone. You know what I mean? I just can't see that. Part of me is starting to think, well, maybe that rumour's true, because either they've had to cut a lot of stuff or they didn't film it. In which case, if they didn't film these scenes that are missing that we really do need added in to make the story flow, then that really is is that down to the director? You know, who's there to make sure that the breakdown right? So we need a scene of the Doctor coming down the ship. She does a somersault, grabs the sword, but but there is no scene of her grabbing the sword. Oh, don't worry, she's got it in her hand. Who's responsible for making sure that those scenes flow? Because there were so many scenes that didn't. There were so many bits where the Doctor's on the floor. No, she stood up. Wait a minute, and the Sea Devil was behind her just then, and now it's right across the other side of the ship. Hang on, what's going on? There were so many bits like that, and I just wonder if it had to be cut because the running time seemed strange. B, were those rumours true about having to edit out scenes? C, is it down to the bad direction that they weren't shot in the first place? But whatever it comes down to, I have to agree with you. If I was Chris Chibnall and I sat and watched the finished article, I would really be unhappy. I'd say I genuinely don't think I could put it out. Not to compare myself to Chibnall, but even with my YouTube channel, I'm so finicky about my videos, believe it or not. If I was in Chibnall's shoes and I watched this, I am, honestly, I'm ridiculous. I'll trim frames that nobody would notice. I'll be like, oh no, I think I'll cut 3 seconds off that. I couldn't put this out if I was Chibnall in its form that it went out in. I would just say, well, it's just not good enough. For a prime time show, it is not good enough.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier, mate. For a show like Doctor Who, which is on the surface at least, is supposedly meant to be one of the BBC's best, gets this kind of treatment. I think it's the pandemic, but I also think it's a rush job. It just feels like we just haven't got enough time to put the polish on it, to tighten up the editing and sort the effects out. I mean, that's okay. I don't want to talk any more about Dan or Yaz, because Yaz is just, the love interest thing with the Doctor, just a complete. It was like somebody just put a tiny hole in a balloon and then just watched it fizzle out. Right? That just goes on and you're like, right, that's the end of that. Right, lovely. And then Dan may as well not have been there, mate. He may as well have they might as well have just written him out. And at the beginning just said something like, Dan would have loved this adventure. He's mentioned before that he loves pirates. It's a shame that he's not here, isn't it? And then something like that.
Actually, before you leave Dan behind, before you leave him behind, you talk about the possibility of him going on to be in Russell's era, which I don't think is going to happen. I think they're already setting up his exit, because he did have a little phone call with Diane at the end, didn't he? Which came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And his little phone call with Diane. And I thought, they're already setting up his leaving scene. He's going to go off with Diane. He's going to turn to the Doctor in the next one and say, I've had enough, Doc. I've decided to stay on Earth and live an ordinary life. He's going to do a Graham and Ryan, isn't he? I think. And then he'll probably get shot on the way out or something. But yeah, so they're definitely setting up his exit, I feel, by bringing Diane back. He wasn't even credited, that actress, by the way. So, poor old Malcolm Holt gets his name spelt wrong, but poor old Diane, she doesn't even get a credit, that actress.
Yeah, true. But that was weird in itself, wasn't it? It's like in the previous story where those two had a conversation, she essentially said, by the way, listener, if you can hear dogs barking in the background, the 90,000 dogs that are in my street have all come out at the same time, it seems. So sorry if you can hear that. But yeah, the last time that Dan and Di had a conversation, she basically said, like, you missed your window, mate. It's done.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she didn't want to know, did she?
Yeah.
Poor old Dan. Yeah.
So see you later. And he's cut up. Now it's like, oh, I actually do really like you and do want to see you and do miss you and all that stuff. So yeah, you're right. They're setting it up for, in the next episode, it's probably going to be like, right, are we ready to go? And he's like, nah, I'm going to sit this one out because I've got a date with Di. And then he just doesn't come back.
A date with Di,
yeah. So Yaz doesn't really get a lot to do. To be honest with you, mate, Yaz is just treated like one of the old classic companions where the Doctor does everything and Yaz, the companion's only purpose is to provide a little bit of exposition to the viewer. So she, throughout the whole episode, she's like, what's the plan, Doctor? Right, excellent. Now the Doctor can give us 2 minutes of exposition and tell us the plan in great detail, which is extremely annoying, which we've already said, but they still do it. Even though everyone says it's annoying, they still do it. And then as the Doctor is actually doing things on the technology that the Sea Devils have built in the big floaty pirate ship, Yaz follows the Doctor around. She's like, what are you doing now? I'm glad you asked, Yaz. The viewers are probably asking the same question. Let me tell you. And then she tells you what she's doing. So the Yaz just follows the Doctor around. And it's just it's just freaking amateur hour at the BBC. It's really annoying me just talking about it, mate. So Yaz she's done, useless in this episode. Dan, he's done, useless in the episode. Right. Before we get on to the Doctor and some other characters, just quickly, why do you think the visual effects then went from absolutely beautiful to there was some really wide shots where the pirate ship's anchored out in, this big cove and the bay and stuff? It looked really, really cool. And then there was another thing where the TARDIS is under the water, at the bottom of the ocean, and some of that looks quite lovely and all that sort of thing. And then we go to things like the Sea Devil jumping from the shore 1,000 feet up and over into the air onto the pirate ship. And let me tell you, listener, there's this thing that you can do in something like Adobe After Effects or something like that, where you take one element and then you just scale it down as you move it across the screen, and it gives you the illusion that it's sort of going off into the distance. Somebody there has just literally done that. Like, the Sea Devil's pose doesn't change. They just move him from one side of the screen to the other in this kind of weird superhero-esque kind of leap. And oh mate. And then, so some of the visual effects look absolutely shocking. And then what's worse, right? This is where the money was spent as well, right, dude? So the sets. So Mandip Gill especially, she has said that this is the biggest set she's ever worked on. And they piled loads of money into making a full-size pirate ship.
Oh, right.
Full-size pirate
just
ship.
a deck.
No. Full-size pirate ship.
What?
So Matt Strevens, the exec producer, has said that it's probably the biggest set that they've ever made for Doctor Who. Mandip Gill has said it's the biggest set that she's ever worked on, in Doctor Who. And we see a third of the deck.
Yeah, I was going to say, I assumed it was just the deck they built.
Yeah, at any one time, you just see like a third or maybe half of the deck as they're having their little swashbuckly moment, or they're just knocking around. The rest of the time, when it's not like that, and it's just Dan and the young lad, Yinky and Madam Ching, they're just on the deck and it's sort of sunset. That looks really bad as well. So that just looks like they've put a light there and they put a light there, and I don't know if it's green screen or something, or they've just put like a light blue drape around it. You can take over, mate.
It does bring me back to, like, I don't know who's to blame for this. Is that the director though? Should the director have got those shots of the boat and the set and everything? Because looking at it, I just assumed they'd built like the back end of the boat or whatever, and that was it. Because there's a lot of close-ups, and you only really see that part of the boat. So I don't know, but you're right. I mean, I was gonna try and throw in a positive. Because I don't think you've got any.
I have some of the.
All right.
Yeah, some of the visual effects do look really, really good. Some of them are beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say one of my positives that I had was the shot of the TARDIS underwater. I thought that was a lovely shot, and that looked CGI wise with the fish going around the light. Liked that. So that was very nice, and and all that stuff. What other positives have you got?
Other positives I have.
I'm looking at my list. Actually, I haven't gotten as many as I thought.
Other positives, other than the Next Time trailer, would be some of the visual effects. Some of them look beautiful. It's just a shame that we went from, like in some episodes, you go from like, okay, that didn't look amazing, but not too bad, to like really good. It like, especially in the modern era of Who, especially since Jodie's era, where you can tell that they've put a bit more money into the production and things like that. So how do you go from that? Well, we know why, but it goes from amazing, like beautiful effects to like some kid for their high school project has done it. It's some of them are literally that bad. And also just some of the sets as they were lit, like I said, the scenes where it's during the daytime and they're on the ship, the ship is completely static. Anyone that's ever stepped foot on any kind of boat on the ocean, even if it's calm water, it sort of rocks a little bit gently from side to side. This was like they were on land. It was like the ship was just beached. Like the ship doesn't move at all, and somebody's brought in like a bloody USB handheld fan to try and invoke like, oh, there's a breeze coming past here, like her hair's moved a little bit. Like...
I hadn't really noticed that at all. Actually, you're quite right. Actually, I hadn't noticed that about it. That reminds me of going back years when I was talking about the Mummy and Orient Express, and I was saying about how all the scenes on the train were static, and you were like, "What are you on about, dude?" But I kind of feel like that's the same thing with this boat. Actually, yeah, there is no motion to it. You don't feel like they're on the high seas of the
nothing at
the
all,
waves.
Nothing at all.
And also, Madam Ching apparently with no crew has managed to somehow navigate that boat all by herself, which is quite a feat. You know, I mean, we're told she's an amazing character. That is quite something, really, isn't it, to be able to do that with no crew?
Yeah.
Talking to Madam Ching, mate, so there's been quite a big deal made about bringing in this historical character. I know absolutely nothing about her. I assumed this episode was going to enlighten me and inform me about this incredible woman that apparently, actually, if you look into her backstory, actually just murdered a lot of people, but she's known as like the greatest female pirate ever. I didn't get any, we didn't get any of the usual, like Rosa, it actually informed me a little bit about who they were. I thought, okay, I've learned something. I didn't really know much about Rosa Parks before. I get a better understanding. I don't feel I learned anything about Madam Ching. I can only go by what people have been saying online, that really she wasn't a particularly good historical figure to look up to, but so it's a strange choice to even bring her into it. But on the other hand, she, it's interesting to find out about someone I've never really heard of. But yeah, the character the actress didn't feel like this really ruthless pirate that did all this stuff that, made her into this well-known historical figure. I say well-known, I'd never heard of her, but, a lot of people have. But yeah, again, I didn't get that character at all. And I felt like, I don't even know why she was in it, really, to be honest. It seemed pretty pointless to even have her in it.
Yeah,
like I said, like with Rosa, they brought her in and they integrated her into the story, and you can totally sort of get the character by the end of it. But I didn't really feel I knew anything about Madam Ching by the end of this at all.
Yeah, it's just namesake, mate. That's all it is. It's just because they literally had no time to explore any of that. In 47 minutes, you can't do all of this and then throw in the historical stuff. There's no time.
Would this episode have been in any way more enjoyable for you? Because you were saying earlier it would have been better as a two-parter. If they'd have sort of fleshed it out and made it a two-parter, like you said, would it have been more enjoyable for you, though? Do you think there was enough there to actually, was there enough meat on the bones to make a good story out of it, do you feel?
Well, the story as it went out, no. But if they had it as a two-parter and completely redone the whole Sea Devils part of it, so there was more of a build-up there, where the Sea Devils are back, yes, but the Doctor doesn't uncover the plan within 5 minutes. If there was more of a build-up and it came to the cliffhanger of part 1, that's what their plan was, and then part 2 is actually stopping that plan, then that would have been better. And then over the 2 parts, you've got more time to do flashbacks to Madame Ching's past, and we find out why she's such a badass pirate and why her sons were kidnapped and who exactly is holding them for ransom and where exactly is the treasure, and did she go and do that stuff, so that
pricked my interest, the bit about her kids. I was going to say there was finally a little, my ears pricked up, well, kids are being held ransom, and that was it, wasn't it? Literally just that one line and gone, never mentioned again. But that again, that could have been explored. But at what point did this episode lose you? Because I'm picturing you like me, you're sitting down, it's about to go out live, like, here we go, Sea Devils, been waiting months for this, let's hope it's good. We both wanted it to be good. We said it last week on the podcast. At what point were you sat there thinking, what the blimmin' heck is going on? Or at what point did you start thinking, oh dear? Because I must admit, as I said to you earlier, on the first watch, it pretty much carried me through. I didn't get to the end of it and feel like some episodes of Jodie's Era where I was angry, whereas I can sense that you did. You were so frustrated by the time you finished watching this. I didn't get that feeling, which is quite a relief for me, to be honest. I just thought it was badly produced, but I quite happily sat through it, and I didn't feel the usual real anger that I sometimes do at the end of a Jodie episode. But what point did you start to lose it, do you think, with this story?
Well, the first part,
probably the flying sea devil.
Well, that made me say out loud, like, what the beep? Out loud. But that didn't really make me want to turn it off or anything like that. But so the first bit that made me think, oh God, is when they go to the Sea Devils floaty ship, the floaty pirate ship, and they go under the deck and they see all the technology and stuff. And they find the guy, Ji-hun, who's been kept alive in sort of suspended animation, basically. And he's like talking to them while he's like that sort of thing.
And
instead of showing us this, right? Instead of having like a badass showdown between Ji-hun and Narcissus, the Sea Devil.
Yeah.
In typical Chibber's fashion, he just gives us all the information while he's there. And I'm thinking at the time, like, why are you telling us? Because essentially, when scenes like that happen, when Chibbers does the exposition thing,
yeah,
Ji-hun's not really telling the Doctor what's happening here. He's telling the viewer. So instead of just having like a more sort of integrated dialogue, and we come back to this all the time, which is why I think a lot of people just can't wait for this freaking things all just be done and Russell come back, because we've said so many times that one of Russell's qualities in his writing is the interaction and the character interaction and dialogue between some really good characters. Even with Chibbers, he does the opposite. Instead of us being like a fly on the wall and experiencing and, you know, the dialogue and the experience and the character progression between them, it's almost like Chibbers wants the characters to turn to the camera and say, "Hi, I'm Ji-hun. I'm one of the actors here in Doctor Who. Get a cup of tea, get comfy. I'm about to tell you exactly what's about to happen." It's that kind of thing that just does my head in. And I think does a lot of people's head in. I think, so when he started to do that to the Doctor, and that was around the same time when she starts fiddling with all the controls and she's, you know, and all that sort of thing. And also in that point as well, that's when Narcissus is just letting her wander around the ship.
Yeah.
So he's been trying to kill her up to that point. But now at this point, he's like, yes, I'll listen to the Doctor. Again, hi
Any
viewer,
last
little
words?
wink.
I'll give you a little bit of a...
Yeah, he sort of turns to the camera, little wink, like, hi viewer, you don't want to miss this bit. Some more exposition coming up, so pay attention. You know, there's no... So that's the point. So about halfway through, when that sort of thing started to happen, I was like, I'm just done. I'm just done with the rest of it. So I sat through the rest of it, obviously, to see if it picked up, but to no avail.
Actually, I've got to... I know I said say some positives, but I haven't really got many. But I've got to say, this is another negative, but I've got to say this while I remember, because it really annoyed me, actually. You talking about Ji-hun has just reminded me that once again... sorry, but this really did boil my bacon, burn the bacon.
Burn the bacon.
When Ji-hun stepped in and sacrificed himself, and once again, the Doctor let somebody else lose their life in her place. I mean, they did that in The Timeless Child, and it was bad. And you would have thought Chibbers would have... I mean, if again, you'd have just thought he would have stepped back and said, you know what, on reflection... yeah, that probably wasn't the best bit of writing. I probably won't do that again. And he does exactly the same thing, where he lets somebody step in and say to the Doctor, go on, you're more important than I am. I'll die in your place. And I just thought that was so frustrating. I was just like, I can't believe they've done that again. It just really annoyed me. It just makes because I'm not the biggest fan of Jodie's Doctor anyway, but the fact she just keeps letting people... you know, her morals are just so disjointed, aren't they? She'll preach one thing and then do exactly that thing herself. I can't. It really annoyed me, that, I have to say. So I just needed to get off my chest while we're talking about that particular character, because I thought that was shocking.
Yeah, and Arthur Lee, who plays Ji-hun, I think he's it looked like to me he was a decent actor, but the way he delivered the lines as well was... I think,
so wooden, yeah.
Because of the time, I think... they probably had some decent stuff written for him, but they just chop until it's like the bare minimum. So when it comes to delivering his lines about when he's in stasis and he's revealing, you know, he's telling us everything. And then later on, after he kills the Sea Devil, Narcissus, and then he sacrificed himself, the lines are just little bits. There's like no substance to them. They're just, you know, the Doctor freaks out like, why did you do that? Essentially, when he kills Narcissus, and he's just like, well, I did it because of that. Moving on. And then we get to the next scene, and it's like, oh, we need to sort this out. Well, okay, cool, I'll do this. Moving on. You know, it's like a sort of very short, he has no substance. He's delivering the information that we need narratively, but I don't know. Anyway, so Ji-hun, not too bad, but yeah.
Did that scene irk you though, or is it just me?
Mate.
Did you sit there and think the same thing? Like, they've done that again. I can't believe they've, like you said, just reusing the idea as well. How can we get How can we get out of the situation? I know we'll get somebody to step in and say, you're worth 10 of me. You save yourself and I'll just die. I just thought, oh, not again. Yeah, not good.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, and yeah, and then the any
positives on that list? Gary's looking down his digital list. I've got it all written on a notepad.
One more negative, dude, and I've seen a few people pick up on this. The first time I heard it really was Rob and his mate on the Doctor Who show podcast, and some other people have said it, in that the Sea Devils' plan to flood the Earth, surely that's not great for their land-based cousins, right? The Silurians, because those guys haven't done anything wrong, and there's pretty much the same species, all that sort of thing. So the Silurians are like, whoa. We haven't done anything wrong. What's going on? You're going to flood everything and kill everybody, apart from you guys. So that doesn't really ring true either, does it? Because what was the was it Warriors of the Deep, where we had the Silurians and those guys? I mean, the Sea Devils were relegated to sort of subservient beings for some of it. But
maybe that's it. Maybe they're mind you, that was set in the future, wasn't it? So yeah, I don't know. See, this was set. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get my head around, the timeline as well. This was set in 18. Well, I don't know. This is set before, so these are sort of early Sea Devils, which again is strange because they seem to have better technology than the Sea Devils we see in the classic era that are set in the future. So I appreciate that's a timey-wimey budget thing, but it's strange to see them with better technology, like the sword thing. I don't know. I didn't really like that particularly. I like the idea that the sort of sword has a poison in it, which I totally sort of missed on the first watch. I'll be honest, I didn't really get that, but that's sort of an interesting idea. But yeah, I prefer the Sea Devils to have one of their little flashy guns, to be honest with you.
Oh, the little disc-based...
yeah, the little disc. I like them. Yeah, there's something classic about them.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, that was kind of cool because it made them a little bit more sort of modern day, sort of action, sort of, if they were wandering around with those little plastic-looking... disc ray gun things.
Oh, I know. What I mean? Yeah, I mean, it's more interesting. It looks good in like the promo shots, the Sea Devil with the sword. I can see why they did it. It's sort of like the samurai sort of Sea Devil. It does sort of work in that sense, but they were killed off way too easily though, weren't they, mate?
Oh,
I mean, I couldn't, even on the second watch, they're just done away with within literally 30 seconds. And then the rest of the story is the scene at the end with the Doctor and Yaz, which, yeah, in some ways... it was sort of the nicest scene, I think. I mean, again, I'm not the biggest thing of this Thasmin thing, but at least the episode just stopped and breathed for a minute, and there was sort of a conversation there. But yeah.
Well, that's what I mean at the very beginning. That was the biggest thing for me, mate. Was the wasted opportunity with those guys, because not only was their plan just, a bit like a lot of the people working on the show, just amateur hour. But it was also, they just didn't really put up much of a fight. I mean, Dan just cuts them all down at one point. That then leaves the head honcho, and he just gets stabbed by Ji-hun, and that's it. See you later.
And I think that's the biggest disappointment for me is that because we were so excited for the Sea Devils, and we thought they looked good. I think that the sort of costume, I think it looked decent. But I think everybody hoped that they would be served well, and they weren't. And I think for me, that's sort of the biggest letdown for me. As I said, I could put this on and I could watch it, and it would just be a bit of Doctor Who fluff. It's going to go up there as an episode that if it was on the TV, I'd probably leave it on, but I certainly wouldn't pick it out to watch again for any reason. But that's the biggest disappointment is the Sea Devils themselves. Well, they looked good and they had potential, but they did nothing. Their plan was rubbish, and they got killed within literally 30 seconds. The main guy gets stabbed. Dan wipes them out, the rest of them out with a sword, and they're done. I just couldn't believe that. I was like, okay. Yeah,
I mean, they did a good job within the first few minutes of making them out to be this new badass version of the Sea Devils. And you thought, right, these guys mean business. Like, this is not just we're going to take 6.5 minutes to fumble out of the sea, like in the classic years, and we're going to just, we're in awe at these very cool things that live in the sea, and now they're on the land and they're really menacing. It's like, no, literally within a minute or two, this guy just means business. You think, right, they're going to give the Doctor a lot of trouble. This is going to be it. And then, like you said, he gets stabbed, the rest get cut down comically, tragically in a way, and then that's it. And it's just down to the Doctor to again recycling a storyline that we've seen hundreds of times, where the clock's counting down and the Doctor has to defuse the bomb, sort of thing. It's like James. It literally is like a Bond film. It's like all of the most basic of basic Bond villain and Bond storyline stuff, with a little bit of recycling from previous scenes from other episodes, just shoved into a pot, and just see what happens. So we all knew the Doctor was going to save the day.
Of course.
It was a given.
I didn't feel like the sort of the Return of the Sea Devils was made out to be such, a big thing, though. You know what I mean? We've been dying to see these guys back, and when he started cracking out of the statue, I thought, oh, what's going on? This is cool. But then there was no sort of big, sort of reveal. I know, like you said about them coming out of the sea and it takes forever, but it still has an impact. Whereas this guy just jumps on a boat and they're already there waiting for him, and it didn't feel like a big comeback that I feel like it should have. And some people might like that; they might prefer the understated, but I don't know. I was hoping to sort of see a sort of OMG, like, oh my god, here they all are, sort of thing. Whereas it's just they were just sort of flapping about on a boat. We're back. I don't know. It felt a little bit of a damp squid, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah, no, totally, mate. Oh dear. Right, so let's talk about just Jodie very quickly before we get on to probably the biggest positive, which was not even in the episode. So we'll talk about the trailer in a second. But so Jodie, mate, any improvement for you on any? No,
not really.
No.
I have to say, I felt like she just. The thing is with Jodie is I get the feeling she really loves playing the Doctor, but I don't feel it comes across on screen. I just because if I didn't know how much she liked playing the Doctor, and I was watching this, I would say it was the epitome of phoning in a performance. She seems to just be on autopilot, the way she delivers the lines. I did groan when she came out of the TARDIS. The first scene with her, as she comes out of the TARDIS, she's waving that blurring Sonic around, and I'm like, that Sonic has got to go. And she does it throughout the whole episode. That blimmin' Sonic, mate, drives me nuts. Absolutely. I mean, it was bad in the Moffat era. Matt Smith, my favourite new series Doctor, I know he used the Sonic way too much, but my God, it's got ridiculous in this series. She steps out of the TARDIS, waves it around, looking at it. What is she doing? It just feels like, I thought there'd be more foreboding. I thought this being her penultimate episode, there'd be moments where it's coming for you, or this is the end, or I could feel I'm near the end, or something. Give her something to get her, to get to grips with. Give her some meat on the bones, because all they do is give her drivel dialogue, which she rattles off at high speed. She constantly does this out of breath acting, which just drives me crackers. We gotta, oh no, wow, what's this? It's just like, oh God, honestly, I'm just sorry, I'm not going to go down that road. It's just, no improvement at all. It's just exactly everything we see time in, time out from Jodie. Nothing, no standout moment for me at all, really. Maybe if I was clutching at straws, I'd say the end scene where she said, oh, I wish it would last forever, or something. It'll go on forever. And I was thinking, we really don't. But it was, at least there was a sort of emotion in her voice. And they just, whenever she comes up against an adversary as well, is that the word? Baddie, adversary.
Yeah, adversary.
Yeah.
Adversary.
And this is the writing, not Jodie, but all they ever do is make her talk rubbish to them. You never feel any sense of, oh my God, the Doctor's up against. So, there's no sort of. They try and make her quirky. There's no sort of danger or threat. You don't feel like, like the great scene between the Fourth Doctor and Davros, where they sit and actually talk through stuff, and you feel like there's a threat there. Like Davros is saying, tell me more, or I'm going to, kill you, sort of thing. You never get any with that with Jodie's Doctor. She just rambles around talking rubbish, and the monster or villain she's talking to just gets annoyed with her, saying, oh, you're trying to waste time. And she's just so poorly written, and I didn't see any improvement. I'll stop there. I've gone on a bit of a rant. Sorry.
That's cool, dude. Yep. No,
I'm not
agree
saying
with you,
she was
mate.
bad
It's-
at it. I'm just saying she's exactly what she's been since episode 1, and there's just no development or improvement for me. I don't see.
No, I read you, mate. Yeah, she's not a bad actress at all. We said that's loads of times. She's cool, and she has moments as the Doctor when she's kind of cool, you know. And I just can't get my head around like some of the people on Twitter and stuff where you'll have people that will go to bat for Jodie about absolutely everything, and it gets to a point where you're like, right, come on now. You have to admit that there are episodes that are weaker than others where Jodie's performance is a bit like, and they're like, no, she's like the most amazing thing, you know, ever. So you're like, ugh, whatever. And then in episodes like this where you cannot, I suppose you can't argue with someone's opinion, obviously, that's, you know, but you can't argue with so many people who have not watched it because the ratings were so poor, coupled with so many people that didn't like it and didn't like her performance, like all the exposition still there.
All the gawping as well, the face pulling. Oh.
And the Sonic reading everything and all that stuff. When you have so many people, like an influx of that feedback from the fan base for years, but yet we're right up to the end of the era and they're still doing it, even though they... right, Jodie was okay, just not much of improvement. Let's leave it there.
Yeah, so I'm going to just quickly grab the ratings thing though, mate, because come on, we've got to mention it. The overnights for this were absolutely shocking. 2.2 million, wasn't it, or something? 2 million, just over 2 million.
Over 2,
so that's the overnight. That's the overnight. That's not even the live viewing figure, which would be even lower. So that's how many people watched it by the end of the night, right? So the actual people tuning in is probably 1.5 million, maybe creeping up towards 2 million, which is the lowest rated Doctor Who episode ever, even including the classic era when it was cancelled. It was beaten, by an episode, a repeat episode of the Antiques Roadshow. So more people watched the Antiques Roadshow, which was a repeat, than a Easter special of Doctor Who. And that, whatever way you dress it up, is bad.
Yeah. And this is the thing. So the lowest rated story was Battlefield back in 1989, McCoy's story. That held the unfortunate title of the lowest viewing figures. This is now below that one. So that's what I mean. Let's leave it there, mate. The ratings were terrible. Absolutely terrible. Yeah. We'll see what the consolidated figures are like. Maybe it's picked up a bit, you know, after that, but
it will pick up a bit, obviously. Yeah. But it's not good. Have we got any positives we could end it on? I don't. Oh, have we got any listeners left? I'm sorry, listener.
We are sorry, listener.
I mean, there will, you know, there will be people out there agreeing with us, but I'm sure there were people out there that enjoyed it as well. I'm sure.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Let's finish off with the trailer that we got at the end.
Let's talk about the trailer. Yeah.
Because the trailer was pretty sweet, right? So the Next Time trailer.
It was great.
It's clearly focused around the regeneration of Jodie's Doctor.
Yeah.
Whether that's a red herring or not, I'm not sure.
Oh, definitely. She's opened that watch, I reckon.
Well, because we had this before, didn't we, with the Tennant era, where we thought that he was regenerating, and then when we actually watched the episode, he just shoved all the regen energy into his decapitated hand and then got around that. So, I don't know. It seems to have focused around that. But, you know, we've got some old faces back, dude, which is really nice. So you and I have said for years how amazing it would be to get Ace back in the story. So, which is finally happening. So Sophie Aldrich is back as Ace. Those trailers that they filmed for the Blu-ray box sets were not wasted at all, because the way that they made her look in that and the little, you know, the setup story seemed to have carried over, which is nice. And Tegan's back as well. The mouth on legs.
Yeah. Mouth on legs. I have to say, I was properly open-mouthed when I saw Tegan.
Yeah.
Because I kind of Ace, I've been dying for Ace to come back. But it didn't feel like a surprise. I kind of felt like, oh, okay, cool. They've finally done it. But when Tegan popped up, I was like, whoa, really? So I'm just so excited to see them both back. I'm wondering how on earth it's going to fit into the story, because there is so much. I mean, you can tell just from the trailer that they've thrown everything in the kitchen sink in, haven't they? You've got Daleks, Cybermen, you've got Ashad. Is that what he's called? Like a funny old Cyberman that's all battered.
I think so.
You've got the Masters back. You've got Tegan and Ace. There was loads going on. I mean, they've thrown everything in. You've got the orange spacesuit. Sorry, colourblind. Orange spacesuit is back. What else is back? Everything.
Well, they've crammed a load into the Daleks are back as well. The Cybermen are in it, and we heard the Master talking about not so much the Doctor regenerating, but apparently like the death of, this is the end of the Doctor's life that he's talking about. So again, whether that's a ruse and that's part of his little plan or something, I'm not sure. But it's a cracking trailer, mate. And I think because there's going to be more people in the story, in a way, that's a really cool thing. But mate, if it's another 45-minute job and they've got all of this stuff going on, then, and if Chibbers has written it, which I think he has,
yeah,
then my expectations are basically on the floor at this point. So anything that's half decent is going to be a triumph, in my opinion. But so that sounds like a negative, but it's not. So I'm just hoping that, Janet Fielding and Sophie Aldred coming back. I think those two are going to be an amazing team up. So I hope they have a decent amount of screen time. I'm hoping the Master gets decent screen time. Unfortunately, I don't really care if Dan or Yaz get screen time. I'm not really sure, but we'll see. But it looks like a really, really good episode to wrap everything up. I'm hoping it's an hour. So.
I'm hoping at least an hour. I mean, we don't know yet. People are rumouring it's a 90-minute special. I think that's the biggest rumour, but it is just rumour. There's a hell of a lot to wrap up in one episode. This is Chibbers, big finale. He's got to go out on a bang. Whatever way you look at it, this is his big hurrah. I don't think he'll come back. I think, in going by interviews that he said, this has been quite, I don't know if it's turned out how he wanted. I think he's quite glad to be leaving Doctor Who. He's done what he wanted to do, I think, and I think he's glad to be leaving from what he was saying in the interview the other day. But he's got so much to tie up, and it looks like there's a lot going on. It has to be an hour minimum, and I really hope it's good, because I've got that same thing that we had last week with the Sea Devils, that we really hoped that they would be served well in the story. So my excitement at seeing Tegan and Ace back has this cloud hanging over it of I'm really excited they're back. I've been wanting them to see them back on screen for a long time. I think I would have preferred it if this was happening in the RTD era, because I just worry how well they're going to be written and what they're going to be doing. I mean, we saw them firing machine guns, didn't we? And it didn't look like a very Tegan. Maybe an Ace. I could see Ace doing that. I don't know. It looked anyway. I'm not going to judge it before I've seen it. I just hope that they're served well in the story and that they don't get lost in everything else that needs tying up to do with the Jodie era. I don't get the feeling that stuff is going to be tied up. I think there's going to be strands left, and I don't know, but we'll see. I am excited by the trailer. Just really hope it's good.
Yeah, same.
That's all I can say. I just, even half decent, I don't know. I've just got no faith in
That's what I mean. Yeah,
all.
if it's half decent, if it's half decent, it will be a good thing. So let's just fingers crossed for that, shall we?
Yes.
Scores on the doors. It's you to go first, buddy. What are you saying?
I find this hard to score because
I'm not.
Yeah, I know you're not. It's just the reason is though, mate. It was a disaster in so many aspects. But as I said to you earlier, I didn't hate it. I didn't get to the end and think, like some of her episodes, I could just never watch them again. I just can't. Like Orphan 55, I just cannot watch that episode. It's unwatchable. Whereas I felt this was, and I'll use the phrase again, a bit of fluff, filler, just very badly produced, but I didn't hate it. I think I'll give it a 6 out of 10, which is probably being a bit generous, but I didn't hate it. I just thought it was badly produced.
A 6? Wow, okay.
That's
not bad
6
for me. Wow, that's high.
I know. I don't know if I'm going too high, but
no worries,
that's what I wrote down. So
all good. I'm going to give this a 2.
God.
I'm going to give it a 2. I'm going to give it 1 point.
2.
I'm going to give it 1 point because I thought that some of the visual effects were absolutely stunning and it looked really good. And I'm going to give it a 2nd point for only having to sit through 45 minutes, which is a blessing, because if it was an hour, then that would have been. So, yeah, I can't go any higher, mate. What was that Capaldi episode that we reviewed? Something...
Sleep No More.
Sleep No More. I've got that kind of vibe about it, where it's just complete, just rubbish, mate. Just, yeah. And I think I'm sounding like a typical parent here. I'm not miffed about it. I'm not angry about it. I'm just disappointed because it could have been one of the best episodes from Jodie's era. If they have handled the Sea Devils better, if the production was tidied up and polished, if the narrative was better, if the writing was better, it could have been an amazing story. It really could have been. But instead we got this, which is, I'm sorry, but to those of you that liked it, thumbs up, all good. But I'm sorry, that could have been way, way better. Yeah.
I do feel like if it just had a bit of tweaking, it would have been half decent. Yeah, just felt like it was incomplete. It feels unfinished.
It does, yeah. Right then, so a 6 from him and a 2 from me. You guys went absolutely ballistic, not in terms of your feelings, but the number of people that replied to our call for reviews and scores and stuff. So I'm going to rattle through these really quickly, but thank you so much to all of you that have commented. So over on Twitter first, Mark from the now old Proctor Who podcast.
Oh, Mark,
He sent in a couple of them. So the first one he said was, on first watch, pretty dreadful. Too much going on, too much exposition. The best bits were the Dr. Yaz scenes, and I never thought I'd say that about an episode. Sea Devils were wasted. Such a shame. 5 out of 10. And I'm going to skip forward to the top of the list where he's put in his second tweet that says, very disappointing, far too much exposition again, real dodgy CGI, badly directed, poorly edited, terrible script, wooden acting, and its worst crime was wasting the premise of the Sea Devils. They were just a generic monster. A low point in Chibber's era, such a shame, and sticks with his 5 out of 10.
Okay, cheers, Mark.
Will Sanger said, it doesn't really stand up to scrutiny, but I had a lot of fun. I didn't like the romance or exposition, but the Sea Devils were a strong threat. It had interesting historical characters, compelling intrigue running throughout, fun action, good ideas. A 7 out of 10. Cool.
Okay.
Chris the Claw 23 says, started strange. It felt like parts had been cut. We'll have to give a second watch, but it was pretty disengaged throughout. However, I enjoyed some of the quips. I feel like the community are more interested in the next time trailer than the episode. Myself included, a 3 out of 10. Lucky D Eileen says, it was my first time seeing the Sea Devils and I like them a lot. Being on a pirate ship, I could not think of the Curse of the Black Spot, but I enjoyed this one more. I particularly like the fight scene with the Doc getting stuck in the action. A fun time, 7.5.
Okay.
Nice. Jeff Tillin really wanted to love it, but there was just far too much asking what's the plan, both to and by Jodie. Awful edits between scenes, nice CGI, but a little / silly story and in need of a serious edit. Saddened, 4 out of 10. Chippy T says, never said this before about a special, but that was weak. Had all the elements of a cracker, but nothing pulled together. If rumours are true, this was spoiled by having it change from 1 hour regen story to a 45-minute mishmash of the best ideas. 6.5 for what it could have been.
Okay.
Lewis Palmer, pretty rough. Felt so inconsequential with the usual awkward dialogue. Usually Chibber's scripts are so breathless I can ignore that and have fun with it, but this was impossible. It goes on to give it a 4. Michael Lee says, poor editing and pacing. As for the effects, let's not say anything about that. Strangely insignificant for Jodie's penultimate episode. The romantic element is so needless and drawn out. Thank God Chibber's is nearly gone. Edward Giluli says, disappointing. It was just all over the place. Did they think it was 1 hour long and then realise they only had 50 minutes? Did they just cut bits out, leaving a confused mess?
Yeah.
Easily the best thing was the end trailer with Tegan and Ace, a 5 out of 10. Jacob Moore, really let down, ruined the return of the Sea Devils, awful pacing and confusing plot, a lot of bad acting, a 3 out of 10. Charlie B, bad acting, bad effects, weak plots, wasted villain, repeated story beats. I don't even like Tasmin, but it was easily the most interesting thing in the whole episode. Left a lot to be desired, a 3 out of 10.
3.
Jessica, awesome Jess, says, I loved it. It was thrilling from start to finish, and the Sea Devils were intimidating. I enjoyed the weaving in of actual historical figures within the story. My screen's just refreshed halfway through, which is not... I enjoyed the weaving and the actual historical figures. Jodie and companions were great. Happy they addressed 13 and Yaz finally. 9 keystones out of 10. Nice one, Jessica.
Oh, the old keystone. Yeah.
Yep. Doctor Who Holmes says, that was sadly a very two-dimensional and boring story. The characters felt like cardboard cutouts and the production felt so cobbled together. And sadly, the Sea Devils didn't add anything, but I guess they looked good. Tasman stuff was shoehorned in, but handled well, 5 out of 10. Sarah Louise, a running Whovian, says, so the Next Time trailer did end up being the better part of the special. Poor storyline, unconvincing Doctor, unnecessary moments with Yaz and the Sea Devils were underutilised. What a wasted opportunity. This felt more like a student project than a professional production. 3 out of 10. Sarah's normally pretty positive.
Yeah, I know.
3 out of 10. And then the last few here. So our friends over at the Doctor Who show, this is Rob. Deeply underwhelming, a basic storyline which hurt further by either missing scenes or not being fully fleshed out in the first place. 48 minutes seems a very short runtime for a special. Were there cuts that hurt the final product? No one's talking. Can't go past 5 out of 10 for this one. Cheers, Rob.
Okay.
Ian just says, an unspecial special. Felt like there was 20 minutes cut out and then stuff left in that was pointless. Sea Devils wasted, clunky dialogue. Would have been okay as a mid-season filler, but this would have been 4 out of 10.
Okay.
Jamie, Coaster Jamie, says, absolute misses the point of the Sea Devils. Gone is the moral complexity, character work and plot. Instead, lots portrays them... LOTSD. Instead, lots portrays them as generic... pirate villains and offers no rhyme or reason for anything that's happening. Flat, boring and hollow. 1 out of 10. Our good friend that we mentioned earlier, Reese, over at Gallifrey Forever 97, says, really had a lot of fun with this special, really drawn in by the visuals at the start. CGI was stunning. The plot of the treasure becomes muddled and hard to follow, but the pros outweigh the bad for me. The centenary looks jam-packed. Hopefully not too many spinning plates. And lastly... this is a follow-up tweet from Rob at the Doctor Who show. He says, also, no one tell the poor old Silurians that their cousins, the Sea Devils, plan on flooding their habitat in a bid to get back at those pesky humans. I'm sure the Silurians would have had something to say about that, but it seems the script didn't consider them to exist at all. No. Question mark. Okay, so over on Facebook. Now, I'm not going to read the Facebook ones because all of them are really long.
Yeah, I was reading them last night. They're great, but they're too long to read.
Yeah, so if you want to read these, dear Doctor Who listener, then just head over to our Facebook page. But Mark Hugel gives it a 4. Colin says it was not great, but just okay. Timothy Radmore gives it a 7. My good friend Nick Gill gives a really good review. Cheers, dude. Just said he wasn't really bothered, to be fair, but it did make him want to rewatch the 72 Sea Devils straight after.
Oh, that's good.
Shane Rivet just says it was a good bit of Easter fun, but probably best not to read too much into the plot. Richard Hardman, it says a bit of a rush job. John Williams says it was wondering if he watched the same episode as everyone else because he really enjoyed it, mixing the Sea Devils with real history and so on. Gordon Hudson says, I think we're all treading water until Russell returns. Craig Collier gives it a 3 out of 10. Bob Clark gives it a 6 out of 10. Baz Warrington says it wasn't too bad in context of Chibber's Who. It had its irritations, but, you know, a bit of a missed opportunity. Martin Arnold gives it a 9 out of 10. Really like that one.
Wow.
Clive Lewis... he gives 8 out of 10 for the story, 9 out of 10 for the trailer. Clive Lewis gives it a 7 out of 10. Toby Coleman gives it a 6.5. Andrew Stewart a 7.5. Cameron Artley gives it a 3. Barbara Lipari says it was awful. Andrew Jr. says it didn't feel like Doctor Who. Charlie Turner says it was should have been a match made in heaven with the Doctor and the Sea Devils in the modern era, but is not really impressed. And Tim Allman says... can't wait until RTD returns, a 4 out of 10.
4.
So, mate, not good scores across the board. There was a couple of people that liked it. We had a 9 even, and we had a few 7s in there, but overall, dude, not good.
And do you know what, mate? I'm grabbing my Sea Devil's sword, and I'm actually going to slash my score. A 6 is too high, isn't it? I'm just looking at my notes, and the production was shockingly bad, and it's got to drop. It's got to drop to 5.5.
You're going to take
it
half
has.
a point
I know it's only a 0.5, but it's not a 6, is it? I'm just looking at my notes, and the one that's really got me is the Doctor saying to Yaz, "You're the greatest person I've ever known," and I just can't live with that. Yeah. So it's a 5.5 from me as a final score.
Oh dear. Okay, so let's put that to bed. Legend of the Sea Devils.
Let's forget it. Let it sink to the bottom of the ocean.
Let it sink there and permeate, and think about what it's done. While it's, sent to its room. So
and
next
Dan,
week,
think
Bud,
about what you've done.
Next week, Bud, we're sticking with Modern Who, but it's a new, a different Doctor. So what's next week, Bud?
So next week, Matt Smith episode. We're going to review Time of the Doctor. So Matt's last story.
His last one.
Which is interesting because I've been wanting to revisit the story for ages. I hated it at the time, and I love Matt. Matt's my favourite new series Doctor, and I think I've rewatched it once since, and I'm just really looking forward to revisiting this to see if it's better than I remember, because I was absolutely trolled when I watched this on Christmas Day, and I just thought it was a mess. But I was so wrecked that I rewatched it, but. It's never been one. It's that sort of story I want to like, but I haven't liked up to this point. But I'm really hoping on a rewatch with sober eyes that I'll enjoy it more, because I love Matt and it was his last story. So, but yeah, be interesting. I've been wanting to revisit this for some time actually. This story.
Yeah, same.
In the hope that it's good, because I just can't remember enjoying it at the time.
Yeah, haven't watched this one in a while. Same as you, mate. Haven't seen it that many times and haven't watched it in a long old while. So it'd be good to revisit this one. Yeah.
Yes,
Matt Smith.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it, actually.
Alrighty. So on that note then, let's wrap up there for 348.
Alrighty.
Thank you for coming back and listening to another episode of the Big Blue Box podcast. It's been awesome to have you here. Sorry we're a little bit negative, Ninny, this week and a bit ranty with things, but any of the grizzled ancients, any of the long-time listeners will know that we don't sort of, give you false reviews or tell you something that you want to hear or something like that. So I hope you appreciate our honesty with these reviews. We've always done since day one. We've always given our complete honest opinion on stuff. So apologies if it's a little bit negative, but that's not our fault. That's not our fault. It was the episode. Thank you very much to all of you that commented and replied over on Twitter and Facebook. Very much appreciated you guys doing that. As Adam said, next week we're over to the Matt Smith era for the Time of the Doctor. So get that watched and we'll be asking for your thoughts and your scores on that as always. In the meantime, as I said, make sure you're following the podcast on your preferred podcast app. A new episode will land every Friday for you to check out, and you can also listen to free over on the website if you want to. It's bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk, and you can also read the reviews and articles from our writing team over there. Those guys put awesome stuff out, so go and check that out. We're on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, links on the website, and hop into the free Discord server to chat Who with other Who fans. Also check out Adam's channel over on YouTube, but it is called The Geek's Handbag.
Geek's Handbag, yes. Lots of Doctor Who vids on there. Go and have a look.
Yes, grab a brew, get comfy and watch that. And Adam's on the socials too, under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. So go and do all that stuff and we'll all chat Doctor Who together and enjoy all the future episodes. So until next week, have a good one. And remember,